Welcome to In the Shop, the video series that gives you an inside look at the trusted partners and breakthrough solutions featured in the shop. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest untapped opportunities in fixed operations. And it's really not a new one, but it's a very important one, and that's online parts sales. While dealerships have invested heavily in digital retailing over the past several years, and this is all vehicle sales and service scheduling related, many parts departments are still operating with limited digital strategies. Yet, consumers, they're buying more automotive parts online than ever before, and dealerships are uniquely positioned to capitalize on that demand with OEM parts and accessories and inventory they already have on their shelves. Joining me today is Amanda Poe. She's the Director of Demand Generation at Revolution Parts. That's a fancy term for somebody who really knows their way around marketing. She is working there with, they, by the way, are working with more than 2,200 dealers all across the country, I think into Canada as well. And they have helped facilitate over $4 billion in OEM parts and accessory sales through their platform. Amanda's here to help us understand how dealerships can expand beyond their local market, reduce aging inventory, and transform their parts departments into meaningful revenue-generating businesses. Amanda, welcome to In the Shop.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a great conversation. I've been looking forward to it. And I want to start at the beginning, which is for all those people who may not be familiar, Amanda, what is Revolution Parts?
Yeah, so Revolution Parts is an e-commerce technology provider for parts departments within the automotive industry. And that's a really long way of saying we work with parts departments at dealerships across the United States and Canada to help them to capitalize on internet sales, take their business online and sell nationwide or even internationally. We're going to talk about a Ford dealership today that is in Canada and sells almost exclusively into the US, so internationally. And we're working right now with several hundred Ford dealers. And I know you said 2,200. 2026 has actually been a great year for Revolution Parts. We're now at almost 3,000 dealerships across the US and Canada. And I think this might be the year we cross the 5 billion mark in parts sold.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great. I love to hear that because as we talked about before we actually hit record, this is such a part of the almost every dealership that there's a lot of room for improvement, and I'm excited because I know you're going to unlock a lot of things for people today. Why do you think so many dealerships, parts departments still actually underutilize all of these digital options compared to sales and service ops?
I think it's something that a lot of people suffer with, and it's fear of the unknown. It is, if I get into e-commerce, how many additional hours am I going to have to work? How many additional people am I going to have to hire? What is going to be, what are the risk factors associated with this? And I think the common denominator, I think every Ford dealer that is listening, especially every Ford parts manager that's listening, is the common denominator amongst parts managers is they're already overworked. They're already working their maximum hours. They're already stretched thin. They're already pulling porters in from different areas. They're having to call FedEx multiple extra times a week just to get those one-off orders out because they don't have those relationships in place. And so I think that it's fear of the unknown that is keeping a lot of people from getting into e-commerce, and that fear of the unknown that is really handicapping their parts department and keeping them from even looking into e-commerce because they just don't understand the huge opportunity that's out there.
I think that's so well said, and it kind of runs parallel with the technology boom that started with the internet. Really, all things digital have a little bit of a fear factor to them, but it's certainly one worth breaking through. So we'll keep tearing into this because I think that dealers are going to come away with maybe some of the logic that'll help them realize that they need to kind of get over that threshold and get to the benefits of what this really could do for them. So let me ask you, what do you think is the easiest first step for a dealer that wants to finally start selling parts online?
Easy first step is just to have a conversation. Talk to one of our e-commerce experts. Maybe Revolution Parts isn't the right company for you. Maybe you want to go with a different company. That's okay. Just talk to somebody. Talk to somebody who's done it. Talk to somebody who's got experience into it and can kind of answer some of those questions that you have. A lot of the time, the first questions that dealers ask when they reach out to us is, Okay, well, what kind of numbers am I looking at? What's the parts profit potential? We can take your location, your OEM, we can take, information about you as a dealership, the number of obsolete parts that you have in your inventory, whether or not you want to be on eBay, whether or not you want your own web store, all of the different options that there are. We can weigh those options with you and give you a real estimate of what you can expect in year one and really kind of talk through things like when to hire, how many people on your team need to be involved, how many, hours it's going to take for you to hit your goals. A lot of the time people want to look at the financial aspect of it and the time aspect of it without looking at the goals. We look at your goals first, and then we can give you a realistic estimate of what it's going to take to hit those goals.
Mm, that's really smart. So you can help them with a math equation they don't even know exists, or they certainly
Yeah.
don't know the answer to it, and it helps them understand from a revenue perspective, maybe where the losses are, but then tie them to goals. Very, very smart. Let's talk a little bit about taking parts and turning it into a true profit center. What do you think the general managers and dealer principals, what should they understand about the size of the online parts demand opportunity in 2026 and really going forward? Because it's been doing this for a while.
It has, yeah. So in 2026, for the first time ever in recorded history, the average age of a vehicle on the road in America is over 12 years old. And so let's just think about all the Fords that were sold 12 or 13 years ago. What happens to a 12 or 13-year-old Ford? The parts start to fail. They start to need to be replaced. Ford drivers love their vehicles. And so oftentimes they want to upgrade them. They want to, replace parts that may be wearing just to ensure the longevity of their vehicle. But for the first time in history, it's almost 13 years old is the average vehicle on the road. And if that's the average, imagine how many vehicles there are on the road that are older than that. And that presents a huge opportunity for the parts department because instead of people looking at buying new vehicles, they're looking at ways that they can extend the life of their current vehicle. Times are expensive. Everything's pricey out there. And so they're looking to see what they can do to extend the overall lifespan of their vehicle. And the number one way that they're going to do that is with parts. And so for that reason, the parts business has grown into a multi-billion-dollar industry in North America. And so we've got people who are the very first step that they take when they're looking for parts is they're going to eBay. And they're searching on eBay for that particular part because they're looking to get the best price or they're looking to get the fastest shipping to them. You've got DIYers. I mean, we've all heard, if you're a car fan, which I know you are, we've all heard the Chris Fix video. Hey, y'all, this is Chris Fix. Probably 1,000 times because we're trying to upgrade and repair things in our own garage. But with the DIYers and the expansion of the YouTube mechanic, you've got more and more people who are breaking things. And so those people also need replacement parts for what they're breaking. So they not only need parts to, do that DIY project in their garage, but they need parts to fix the DIY problem that they just created. And the place that these people overwhelmingly are going is online. And so whether they're going to Google and they're looking their shopping feeds or they're going to eBay, what they're looking for 9 times out of 10 when they're shopping is something that can be delivered directly to them, either because their vehicle's down in their garage because they just caused a problem, they're employed and don't have time to go somewhere to pick it up, or they're looking for the best cost option. And I think that third one is another big barrier to entry for e-commerce is people look at the cost shoppers and they say, I don't want to be the cheapest out there. I don't want to sell parts way below my service drive profit margin. I don't want to lose all of my money selling parts online. The thing that we keep telling people is you used to see e-commerce as the lowest and cheapest, the lowest price, the cheapest, the lowest quality part available. And e-commerce has evolved over time as companies like Revolution Parts have gotten involved. And now instead of having to sell parts, basically at a loss just to sell them, our dealers are making profit, usually cost plus 15 to 20%. So 15 to 20% over what that part is costing them, selling it online, then adding profit margins in shipping, and then being able to sometimes service those vehicles as well. And so you're getting long-term customers, you're getting repeat customers, you're getting business you never would have gotten, and you're still making a 20% profit on that part. So all that was a long-winded way to say all that to say there's a huge opportunity in parts, not just nationwide, but also locally, and we try to make it really easy to attack both.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is such a blue ocean. You wouldn't think that it would be, but it is still blue ocean. And there's so many areas of automotive operations from the retail side that are not blue ocean. There's like much more competitive parts of the business. And so everything that you shared, I love it when you actually give more context and the deeper answers, because I think that's exactly what the dealers need to know. It helps them establish some confidence around more knowledge, right? The more we learn, the more we can be comfortable taking those next steps and trusting not just their instinct, but information from folks like you about, okay, here's where we need to go. And I'm sure that if somebody said, hey, I don't really know a lot of dealers that are doing this. Hey, Amanda, can you connect us with somebody that we could talk to, like peer to peer? I'm sure that, do you guys get that question a lot where people want to talk to another dealer?
We do, and we have a lot of Ford case studies on our website for that exact reason. I mean, you as a
Ah,
dealer, you don't want to pick up the phone all day to talk to another dealer. And so a lot of people say, well, I want to talk to another dealer. And so we try to get the story so that you can see the story. And there's nothing we can do to stop you. Once you read that story on our website, you can pick up the phone and call that dealer if you want to, but that's on you.
yeah,
But
yeah,
we have a ton
yeah.
of case studies on our website that talk about, River City Ford is a great example. Don't everybody go call River City Ford after this, because I'm pretty sure they would fire Revolution Parts if you did. But River City Ford is a great example. They're in Canada, and they sell a majority of their parts into America. And their big focus when they got into e-commerce was they didn't just want to hit people in their backyard. There's not very many people in their backyard, so they needed to reach outside of their existing customer base. And then the other problem that they had was that they felt as though their current market was oversaturated. So when they looked at their existing market, they said, there's too many Ford dealers selling parts here. How do we sell parts when everyone around us is already selling parts? And that's something I really want to address with Ford dealers, because it's something we've heard with Ford dealers more than once. If you're in Dallas, Texas, for example, that's where I am, there's seemingly a Ford dealership on every corner. And so how do you get into e-commerce and tackle the parts the parts monster without wasting your time when seemingly every other dealership is selling? And that's where we as a company look to areas where there are not people selling online. We look to areas where e-commerce doesn't exist. We look to areas where there's really high demand. We look to areas where there's a lot of people searching for the parts that you have in particular. I mean, River City Ford is in Canada. They have a lot of parts for snowy, cold, weather, a lot of parts that people are going to be looking for when they live in an area that gets ice. So those are parts that are in stock. So their ideal customer is probably not in Phoenix, Arizona. Their ideal customer is probably in New York or Oregon or Washington. And so we look to those areas where there's not an oversaturated market, and we help you market into those areas to help you to sell more parts. Because really the big focus that we have is that you sell more parts, because that's where you make your money as a dealer. And so another big barrier to entry is that question of who's being successful, who's making money. And I would say, look at our website and you can see case study after case study after case study of dealerships that signed up with us, Ford dealerships and otherwise, of dealerships that signed up with us and doubled, tripled, quadrupled their profits within 6 months and have set themselves up to be leaders in the parts industry across the nation and, of course, across the continent.
You brought up a really great point, and I don't want to bury the lead. In the early days of the internet, the OEMs didn't have any DMA or PMA, whatever they call their market areas. They didn't have restrictions. Like dealers could sell, if they were smart enough using the internet, they could sell all across the country, wherever they wanted to. And some of them still can do that, but they're under brand restrictions and compliancy. It's not the same game as it was in 1999 or 2000, or even probably into 2005. That started to change a little bit, but that restriction doesn't exist at all for parts.
It does not.
And so you're giving this example of a Ford dealer in Canada who's realizing, and plus you guys are helping them see some of these areas where the market really aligns well with where they would want to be selling. That alone, to me, for somebody who's very entrepreneurial and they really want to do things inside of their dealership they've never done before, I mean, you're basically chapter and verse giving the logic and case studies and proof behind this is why you would want to do those things. And I love that. And, it's interesting because one of the things that dealers will push back on is, that like it's not as big of a deal, but the numbers don't lie. I don't know if you've seen this guy, but there's a guy, I think Parker's Mobile Mechanic on Instagram. He's got over 2 million followers, and all he does is drives around to the area where he lives in. And when he finds people that are kind of having a bad day with their car broke down, he fixes it. His whole truck is basically his shop on wheels. And I tell dealers all the time, like, this is what's going on all the time. Are you getting a piece of that? Here's a guy that just decided to turn into his own little mobile business and help people for free, by the way. And now he just monetizes what happens online. There's a little piece of this part of automotive that dealers are missing out on because it's really not that little. So let me ask you this. How do you think dealerships should think about pricing and shipping? That's probably a big thing for a lot of dealers, shipping, and margin protection when they're selling parts online.
Yeah, so I tell this story all the time. Again, I'm in Dallas, and there's a dealer local here in Dallas, and I've been doing this for 15 years almost. And my first dealerships I ever worked with were Ford and Chevy dealerships. And so I'm looking back on the Ford and Chevy dealership pain of 15 years ago, and then I look at the pain that these dealers experience today. And this is a GM dealership in Dallas. His name's the parts manager's name is Craig, and I love Craig because he is so honest about his mistakes. He got into e-commerce. He said, I want to sell parts online. He's like, I've got to get out of Dallas. He said, he's a GM dealership. There's a Chevy dealership down the road. The largest Chevy dealership in North America is in Dallas. So he's got a lot of competition in Dallas. And he's like, I have to get out of Dallas because I will never make money if I only sell in my backyard. And so he signed up, he listed his parts on eBay, he set his pricing, and he sold everything as cheap as he could. And he lost money hand over fist. And he tells a story all the time. He's like, I had to turn it off. I had to turn off my eBay store. I had to remove my listings. I had no idea that this was going to happen. But he's like, I'm selling parts basically at cost and making almost no money. And I didn't realize that I was going to pay eBay listing fees, and I was going to pay, I had all these fees that were going to come out of my parts, and selling them at basically at cost wasn't going to make me any money. And so he had to shut everything off. And then he reached out and he's like, I need help with this. And so that's where we got to help Craig, and we got to help him turn a profit. So when you ask, how do you look at profit? Our parts managers, they don't want to be the cheapest. They don't want to be the lowest cost out there. They don't want to be, selling parts basically at cost most of the time, because when they're selling parts at cost, they're not making enough money to really sustain their parts business. And so a majority of the time, the dealerships that we work with, they're selling parts at cost plus 15 to 20%, sometimes even higher if it's a really high demand part. But the great thing about a platform like Revolution Parts is you're not just getting into this with manual work. We have AI tools involved. We have a lot of automations. We have a lot of experience. I say I've been doing this for 15 years. We've got people at our company that have been doing this for a lot longer than 15 years who can really provide that expert advice that the parts manager needs to be able to price things in a way that makes sense. So let's say you've got a large amount of obsolescence. I just talked to a Chevy dealership at NADA this year that had $600,000 in obsolescence sitting in their stockroom. And that blew my mind, because how do you get that? I mean, how do you get over $500,000 in obsolete parts? And he said, I need to clear these obsolete parts out so that I can get good parts in. And so he's basically selling obsolete parts at cost plus 5%, just so he can get them out of his dealership and just make a little bit of profit so he can fill that space with parts he's going to make money on. I've got other dealerships that the parts that they're selling, they are so competitive. There's so many people looking for them that they're selling them at cost plus 25%. But we've got all those automations built into our platform. So you can say, if this part's selling a lot, I want it to be cost plus X%. If this part's not selling, I want it to be cost plus X%. So we build those automations in so you don't have to manually manage it, and you don't have to follow it on a day-by-day basis to make sure you're making money. And anything that could potentially become obsolete, we flag it and we say, this has been sitting in your stockroom for a long time. Do you want to do a small discount so you can get rid of it before it becomes obsolete, and you have to do a bigger discount just to get rid of it? And so we put all of those systems in place to automate the pricing process for you so that you're not only making money on the part, you're making money on shipping, and you're basically guaranteed a return on investment that's much, much better if you try to do it than if you try to do it yourself.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know a little bit about you guys. I didn't know that was. I don't know if that's a newer part of your service delivery, but it's so critically important because those parts that sit and they become obsolete, parts obsolescence has been an issue for dealers forever, and for you guys to have a mechanism built into the system that operates that way. I can only imagine that the dealers that are tuning in and learning from this conversation that's got to be yet another box checked to say, "Oh, I had no idea," because that's really, really, I want to say cool because it is cool, and I've been around the fixed ops part of the dealership quite a bit. I would love that if I was in the parts department, if I was a GM or a dealer principal, that would be a very, very, very likable feature for me. So,
Yeah.
love that.
We just had a
Um,
webinar. We
Oh,
had
yeah,
a
go ahead.
webinar, I think it was like 2 months ago.
Uh-huh.
And it was stop selling dead stock for pennies on the dollar webinar. And we had a ton of people attending it because they said, in 2024, I had X number of dollars in dead stock or obsolete parts, and I sold it to a wholesale company for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah,
And we're like, what if you could get the whole dollar? Maybe you're not going to get $1.50, but what if you could get $1.05? Then
right.
you're still turning a profit and you're getting rid of that part and you're probably going to make a little bit off of shipping. Oh, and your GM is going to be really happy because you're going to be freeing up all that inventory space.
Yes.
And our partnership with eBay makes that possible. Is we help dealerships to sell their obsolete parts without having to sell them wholesale for pennies on the dollar, which used to be the only option for getting rid of obsolescence in the dealership.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've worked with plenty of dealerships that have packaged up all those obsolete parts in boxes and
Yep.
watched a freight truck carry them away, basically after writing them off and counting them as a total loss. So we're
Yeah.
trying to flip the
Yeah.
script on that as well.
Yeah. Parts obsolescence, there are not good options for dealers when it gets to,
No.
and if you've got a lot, it gets really ugly. A long time ago when I was a service writer, I worked for a guy who at a Mazda store who bought a large shipping container that was completely full of third generation Mazda RX-7, which is, I think they stopped making in 93 or 5. But he was a huge rotary enthusiast for all things that Mazda had ever made rotary. And it was a giant, huge container full of obsolescent uh, Gen 3 Arc 7 parts. And he made a killing. He bought it so cheap. And then he took that online back in the way early days of this, probably a lot through eBay.
Yep.
But his fortune was unfortunately, not good for dealers that had to take those losses. So I love that piece. I'm glad we talked about. I hope the dealers lean in on that because I think that's a really, really important part of what you guys are doing in your service delivery. You've given me already a couple of examples. But I want to give you the opportunity in case there are other like results that you're seeing from dealerships when they are fully embracing this online parts sales initiative. Are there other ones that you want to highlight or share as we have this conversation?
Yeah, I think if you follow us on social media, you've probably seen Brian Benstock's face a lot of times on our social
Mhm.
media over the past couple of months. And he's currently a very vocal spokesperson for Revolution Parts because of how much success his dealership has seen. And he came into this and he said, if I'm going to pay for an e-commerce store, I'm going to make my money back. And he said, he's a VP and a GM, and he told every leader in his dealership, we're going to make this work no matter what it takes because I'm not going to pay the money to get into e-commerce and not see a return on investment. And so he did.
Mm.
He went all in. He got all of the members of his leadership team involved. His leadership team got their departments involved, and they said, we're going to sell parts online. And we're going to do, if we've got to reallocate porters, if we've got to reallocate, people from other areas in the dealership to pack and ship parts, we're going to do it. And so he called us one day and he said, I want to make money. How do I make money? And he did a little bit of eBay, he did a little bit of advertising, he tried some new things he'd never tried before. And it's an amazing case study. You'll see it all over social media right now. You'll see it all over our website. He made an 800% increase in his profit in 180 days.
Wow.
And he's a very small dealership in New York City. And so he doesn't have room to grow. He doesn't have room to expand. He can't put more cars on his lot because his lot's only as big as it is. And he's surrounded by
Landlocked. Yeah.
buildings. And so he said, I got to find a way to make money off of this because I'm not going to make money in other areas. And so that's it's a great case study to highlight because it's truly tells the story, not just of profit potential. 800% growth in 180 days is obscene. It's amazing. It's not what every single dealership is going to achieve in their first 180 days. But if you really get your team involved and you really say, we're going to go all in on this and we're going to be invested in growth, in selling parts, in every single day sending whoever necessary to the parts department to pack these orders so that FedEx can take them out and get them to the customer. We're going to be dedicated to quality customer service. We're going to train our BDC team to answer the phone and make sure that if somebody's calling in to ask questions, we're able to answer them and direct them to the parts department where necessary. When you get your entire dealership involved and you say, we're going to go all in on this because we're going to find success no matter what, success is imminent. There is no way that you're going to do this work and not see that success. And Brian's really proof of that. And that 800% is not a small number. He is well on his way to making $500,000 a month in profit from his parts department. And
Wow.
that's something, and by the way, he's a Honda dealership. It's not like he's a Ferrari dealership. It's not like he's selling $85 oil filters. He's selling $20, $10 oil filters, and among obviously a lot of other parts. But he's a normal dealership in a normal area with normal prices, and he's still able to achieve that level of parts profit. A Ford and Lincoln dealership would have no problem achieving that if they went all in just like he did.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great example. Well, I was going to ask you, with the questions that I had ready for you was about obsolete parts. We kind of covered that pretty good, but
Yeah.
just in case, any lingering thoughts on that aging issue and why it's so costly. Felt like we covered it pretty good, but you want to spike the ball on that at all?
The obsolete parts problem is one that is the bane of every parts manager's existence. And when they look at their obsolete inventory, it's oftentimes they're trying to put it out of their mind because it's a problem, it's a cost. They know they're going to have to write those off. They know it's not going to make their leadership happy. And so the thing that I really want to hone in on is if you've tried to get rid of obsolete parts before and been unsuccessful, you are the perfect person to work with Revolution Parts because we know it all because we've seen it all. We've done it all, and we've definitely, our Jensei, our consulting services leader, he was a parts manager himself for a really long time. And he's got a list of do nots because he's also tried those same things that you have. And so his list of do nots is longer than his list of do's. And so our team is able to kind of help answer those questions and solve those problems. But also, if you've ever gotten into eBay and you've tried to get rid of your obsolete parts on eBay and you've realized that there's no profit in it, it's because you're doing it alone. Revolution Parts is a partner with eBay. We love eBay, and we put hundreds of dealerships on eBay to find success in selling not just obsolete parts, but regular inventory. And through that partnership, we're able to eliminate unnecessary eBay fees. We're able to eliminate listing fees. A lot of the things that kept you from getting profit on those parts when you tried in the past, working with Revolution Parts helps get rid of that too. So obsolete parts don't have to be a headache. They don't have to be something that you ignore until the last minute possible. They can be a profit center, and eBay doesn't have to be a headache either. It can also be a profit center as long as you find the right partner. And we've got some really great people at our company that have a lot of experience in this area and can give you the advice necessary to make sure that you are making all the money you possibly can.
Yeah. Love that. Great stuff, Amanda. Well, let's talk a little bit about the future. How does Revolution Parts help dealerships manage multiple sales channels like their website? You mentioned eBay, maybe Amazon, and wholesale customers without creating what all dealers are usually a little afraid of is some more complexity in the dealership.
Yeah, dealership complexity. That's probably something I've been dealing with for the majority of my career. I've talked to a lot of dealers, and I've worked with a lot of dealerships nationwide, and complexity is the biggest issue that most dealerships deal with. And the thing about Revolution Parts is we're not new at this. We've been doing this for a long time. We were founded in 2013. And we've got a host of solutions to solve dealership complexity. And the thing that I always tell people is it's all in one. So it's a host of solutions in one place. You don't have 5 different places you have to go to manage, eBay orders, online orders, local orders, all of those different things. You don't have to go to different places. You don't have to go to different places to manage your credit card processing, to manage your, shipping negotiations, to print packing orders, to see what's coming, to look at your inventory. We put it together as an all-in-one solution in an effort to eliminate that complexity. And then we integrated it with every major DMS, CMS out there. So whether you are, currently trying to sell parts and maybe you're with a different provider and you're experiencing that complexity, or you're trying to sell parts on eBay by yourself, Revolution Parts has integrated all of the systems of your dealership to make it seamless, automatic, and easy. And in 2026, we also started developing AI tools to eliminate additional complexities like managing fraud, managing, shipping protection is something that we do a lot of, managing credit card processing, VIN verification. We've added a lot of automations to our system as well to eliminate the complexities that maybe aren't related to a system, just related to your everyday life. And so it's not just speaking intuitively to your other systems, it's also speaking intuitively to your daily schedules. And so we try to make it as easy as possible to get into e-commerce, but also make other areas of your life easier as well, so that you have the time you need to focus on e-commerce. Because at the end of the day, a computer is not going to put that part in a box and put a sticker on the box for you. We'll get there eventually, hopefully. But at the end of the day, somebody's got to do that. So we want to eliminate other complexities so you have the time in your day to make sure that your inventory is managed, it's organized, unpack those orders that are coming in, and then pack orders that are going out.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Now, I got one last one for you, which is also kind of future. So just get your crystal ball out. And this would be more of where do you see online part sales with dealers heading over the next 3, 4, 5 years? I mean, you mentioned that we're in this AI era. There's a lot of things going on, but in general, where do you see it going over the next few years?
For Revolution Parts, 2 things. The first thing is we don't want you to see your local dealership, maybe not local dealership, other dealerships within your OEM. We don't want you to see them as competition. We want you to see them as partners. And so we're building systems into Revolution Parts to make it easy, into our platform, to make it easy if if you need a part and that part is out of stock and it's going to take 6 weeks to get it from the OEM, or you can go on Rock Auto and you can pay shipping to have it here in a few weeks. If you are looking for a part that you don't have, whether for your own dealership or for your customer, we're building a solution into Revolution Parts to make other dealerships your partner, to allow you to expand your inventory into what they have so they can offer their inventory for sale to you as well. And so that you're again, eliminating complexities and eliminating time, eliminating effort by working with local dealerships instead of working against them. That's the big thing. We see dealerships as partners, not as competition, and allowing you to use other dealerships' inventories as an extension of your own inventory benefits everyone involved. And then the second thing is, right now, if you talk to a lot of dealers, they're going to tell you, my biggest competitor in this space is aftermarket. And I don't want to sell performance parts, or I don't want to, get into that world because aftermarket, their prices are better. Maybe their parts are higher quality. They have better reputation. And so a lot of performance parts, upgrades, accessories are things that dealers are shying away from because they know that aftermarket, it's taking a lot of that audience. We, again, want to eliminate the competition with aftermarket and instead empower dealerships to sell aftermarket themselves. So let's say that you want to sell aftermarket upgrades, performance upgrades for vehicles, turbos, axles, gears, shocks, wheels, tires, whatever it may be. If your dealership wants to become a seller of aftermarket, not only online, but also to your existing customer in order to increase service hours, we see that as an additional profit generating opportunity for dealerships that's available right now within the Revolution Parts platform. So you're not looking to aftermarket and other dealerships as competition in the future. The future is you're looking to aftermarket and other dealerships as your partners and profit centers for your dealership, basically eliminating the competition altogether and guaranteeing that every dealership in North America is able to make a profit both in parts, but also in service.
Those are great additions. Absolutely. I mean, dealers have already been doing that kind of share of inventory with vehicles for a long time.
Yeah.
So to actually bring that to the parts world is really smart. Like, this has been fantastic, Amanda. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing all these insights. It's so helpful. That's why we do these in the shop sessions, because we want the dealers to get exactly what you have shared with us today. So one of the biggest takeaways, audience, from today's conversation is, I think, obvious. Online part sales are no longer a future opportunity. They're a current reality. They have been for a while, but we don't want anybody to feel bad about that. We want you to continue to learn and understand how it actually can revolutionize your own dealership. So, dealers that embrace digital part sales, you're going to be able to reach customers far beyond your local market. Amanda gave examples of some of their dealers that are doing that today and have been doing it for a while. You'll be able to create a new revenue stream that probably should have been streaming through your river actually a few years ago. So jump on board. And you're also going to find a lot of productive ways to move aging inventory. And everybody knows, we talked about it, parts obsolescence can get very, very costly. So, for dealership leaders, if you're looking to improve fixed operations profitability, this is a conversation worth continuing. Head to theshop.com right now or as soon as possible and learn more about Revolution Parts. Be sure to connect with Amanda and the Revolution Parts team on LinkedIn. Go look them up. Follow their page over there. Follow Amanda over there. They put out lots of great content. As always, thank you for spending time with us in the shop. If you enjoyed today's episode, well, hey, subscribe, like it, do all the things you're supposed to do on social media. Share it with your team. Share it with somebody that needs to see it. Maybe sit down and use it in one of your sales meetings with not just the Fix Ops team, but the whole dealership. And join us next time for more conversations focused on helping dealerships improve operations, grow profitability, and stay ahead of industry change. Now, go revolutionize your parts department, and we'll see you soon right back here in the shop.